The night before my wedding, I should have been dreaming of white lace and vows, of candlelight spilling across polished wood floors and my groom waiting at the altar with love in his eyes. But instead, I stood at my window staring out into the endless black of the forest, my chest heavy as if something unseen pressed against it. The manor was quiet, too quiet. Guests filled every room. Family laughed in the hallways, and yet, beneath it all, there was a stillness that didn't belong. The air felt thick, alive, carrying a scent so faint most would never notice, but I noticed because it was the scent that haunted me since I was 16. Wild. Pine, smoke, earth after rain. The scent of him. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to steady the tremor in my body. For years, I'd told myself it was just a memory, that I had imagined the bond the way my heart had once raced when golden eyes found mine in the shadows. But tonight, on the eve of binding myself to another man, it returned, stronger, undeniable. The elders had warned me long ago, do not look for him. Do not let him find you. His bloodline is cursed. His wolf is too wild. He is not meant for you. And I had obeyed. I buried every dream, every whispered promise. I let my parents guide me toward the safe choice. The choice that would bring peace instead of chaos. Tomorrow, I was to marry Elias Saman, who had been my companion, my protector, my family's pride. But as the night stretched around me, my heart betrayed me. Because it didn't beat for Elias, it hadn't in years. It beat for the one I wasn't allowed to love. A rustle outside broke through my thoughts. The manor grounds stretched wide, hemmed by iron gates and guarded paths. No one should have been out there at this hour. And yet the hairs on my neck rose. My palms went cold. I stepped back from the glass, but not before I saw it movement in the tree line, tall, broad, leaning against the shadows as if he belonged to them. For a moment, I told myself it could be a guest, a guard, a trick of the light, but then the moon broke through the clouds, and the world sharpened, eyes glowed gold. My breath caught, it was him, K.L. I froze, my mind spinning back to nights I'd forced myself to forget. Kale standing at the edge of the meadow, watching me with an intensity that made my skin burn. Kale's voice whispering promises of forever. Kale's hand brushing mine when no one was looking. The mate bond humming like fire under my skin. I had been a girl then, innocent enough to believe love could conquer anything, even the laws of blood and pack. But the elders had ripped him from me. They called him dangerous. They said his wolf carried something dark, something that would drag me into ruin. And so Kale disappeared. Until now. I stumbled back from the window, pressing my hand to my chest as if that could calm the wild, pounding rhythm inside me. He shouldn't be here. He couldn't be here. And yet when I blinked again, he was still there, still watching, still waiting. The years had only sharpened him. His jaw was stronger, his shoulders broader, his presence like a storm pressing against the walls of the house. Even from a distance, I could feel it. The pull, the bond, the truth I had spent my life trying to deny. My mate, I whispered to the empty room, the words trembling off my lips before I could stop them, as if he heard me. Kale straightened, and in that single movement, I knew he hadn't come to haunt me. He hadn't come to watch me marry another man. He had come to take me back. I spun away from the window, heart hammering, breath coming fast. Tomorrow, the church bells would ring. Tomorrow, Elias would take my hand, and I would speak the vows I had memorized until my tongue went numb. But tonight, Kale had returned, and with just one look. He had undone everything I thought I wanted, everything I had promised myself, everything my family had planned. The forbidden past I had buried was no longer in the ground. It was alive, standing in the shadows, waiting for me to choose. And as the clock struck midnight, I realized with a shiver that tomorrow might never come. I couldn't breathe. The window pane still held the faint echo of his golden eyes, and no matter how many times I told myself to calm down, my pulse only raced harder. Kale, the name itself, was dangerous. It tasted like fire and honey, like the first secret I ever kept from my parents. I backed away from the glass, pressing against the cool wall of my room. I told myself it wasn't real, that I was imagining things, that the shadows of the forest had tricked me. But the bond in my chest hummed. Alive. Undeniable. He was here. After all these years, after all my forced silence, Cale had found me again. And on the eve of my wedding, a knock jolted me from my thoughts. Marielle. My mother's voice was soft but sharp at the edges. Why are you still awake? I swallowed hard, rushing to close the curtains. Just nervous, I lied, forcing steadiness into my tone. She opened the door. Peeking in with her usual elegance, her silver hair pinned tight, her gown still crisp despite the long day. Her eyes softened when they met mine. It's natural to feel this way. But tomorrow will be beautiful. Elias will make you happy. Her words should have soothed me. Instead, guilt wrapped tight around my chest. Elias was steady, gentle, everything a daughter could bring home without fear. But he wasn't Cale. He could never be. I know, I whispered. Lowering my eyes so she wouldn't see the war raging inside me, she studied me a moment longer, then nodded. Sleep now. You'll need strength for tomorrow. When she left, I leaned against the closed door, my hands shaking. My family had built this marriage for me, step by step, choice by choice. If they knew Cale was here, if they even suspected Di would lose them all. But my heart already belonged to him. I thought the night might pass without further disturbance, that maybe he would vanish into the woods as silently as he came. But then it happened. A whisper against the window. Not a knock, not a tap. A sound low and deliberate. Like claws brushing glass, my stomach dropped. I crept back toward the window, every instinct screaming to stay away. Still, I drew the curtains back an inch, and there he was, closer now, standing in the moonlight as if he had risen straight out of the earth. His eyes burned like embers. His jaw was tight. His presence filled the night. For a moment, neither of us moved. I only stared, caught in the terrible, beautiful gravity of him. Then his voice carried across the darkness. So low, I almost believed I imagined it. Come to me. The sound curled around me like a spell, like something older than language itself. My knees weakened, my breath caught. I pressed a hand to the glass, desperate to steady myself. Why? The word escaped me before I could stop it. His lips curved, not in a smile, but in something fierce, something aching. Because you're mine. I stumbled back, heart pounding, every rational thought screaming at me to run, to shut the curtains, to pretend he was never there. But another part of me, a part I had buried for years, burned to answer him. I remembered the last time I'd seen Cale, 16, standing on the cliff edge above the river. The elders had cornered us there, their voices sharp, their eyes full of warning. They told me to let him go or lose everything. And Cale, his hands trembling as he touched my face, had whispered, I'll come back for you, no matter what it takes. No matter how long I thought those words were lost to the wind. But here he was. I forced myself to breathe, to gather the shreds of strength left inside me. You shouldn't be here, I hissed, voice low enough not to carry. If anyone sees you, they won't, he cut in, his tone unshakable. I've stayed hidden this long, but I won't hide from you. Cale, I whispered, my throat tight. I'm marrying Elias tomorrow. It's done. It's decided. His eyes flared brighter, golden fire piercing through the night. No, it isn't. You know it. I know it. Fate doesn't break just because humans wish it to. You were mine the day you were born, Marielle. And you're still mine now? The bond between us thrummed, alive and merciless. It was more than love. It was destiny etched into bone. And the worst part? He was right. A branch cracked in the distance, snapping me out of the trance. Voices carried faintly from the courtyard guards making their rounds. Cale stepped back into the deeper shadows. But not before his gaze locked with mine one last time. Midnight, he murmured. By the old pines. If you don't come, I'll know your answer. And then he was gone, vanished like smoke into the trees, leaving me trembling, breathless, and more alive than I'd felt in years. I collapsed onto the edge of my bed, hands clutching the sheets. My life was already laid out before me, safe, proper, respectable. But Cale's voice echoed in my chest like a drum beat. I couldn't silence .midnight. The old pines. If I went, it would be no turning back. If I didn't, I would live a lie until the day I died. The candle on my nightstand flickered low, shadows curling along the walls. And as the clock hands inched toward midnight, my heart made a choice my mind refused to name, because deep down I already knew I would go. The clock struck midnight, and the sound echoed through my veins like thunder. I told myself I wouldn't go. I told myself to stay in bed, to close my eyes, to let tomorrow come and bury Cale's voice under vows and blessings, but my body betrayed me. I found myself barefoot on the cold stone floor, wrapping a cloak around my shoulders, slipping silently down the corridor. Every creak of the manor sounded like betrayal, every shadow like an accusation, yet still. Because the bond tugged me forward like a chain I couldn't break. The forest swallowed me whole. Mist curled low over the ground, the trees whispering secrets I couldn't hear. My heart hammered as I stepped between the pines, deeper and deeper until I reached the old clearing. And there he was. Cale stood at the center, bathed in moonlight, his presence more dangerous than the night itself. His wolf shimmered beneath his skin, restless, barely contained. "You came," said, his voice low, heavy with something between triumph and relief. I tightened my cloak, trying to keep my voice steady. "I shouldn't have." "But you did," he answered, stepping closer, every movement carrying the weight of inevitability. The bond flared between us, sparking against the air, pulling me toward him even as I fought to hold my ground. "I'm marrying Elias tomorrow," I whispered, forcing the words out like armor. "You can't change that." Cale's jaw clenched, his eyes burning gold. "Elias is not your mate. He never was. They're forcing you into chains, Marielle, and I won't let them." His words cut deep because they were true. My family, my elders, they had guided me into this marriage, not out of love, but out of duty. Elias was the safe path, the quiet life. But Cale? Cale was fire. Cale was danger. Cale was mine. I shook my head, desperate to resist the storm inside me. "Even if I wanted to choose you, I can't. You know what they said about your bloodline? About the curse." At that, something flickered across his face pane, sharp and raw. "You think I stayed away because I didn't want you?" His voice cracked with fury and grief. "I stayed away because I found the truth. And it was worse than what they told you." My breath caught. What truth? Cale's eyes locked with mine, fierce and unyielding. They weren't protecting you from me. They were protecting themselves from us. The words chilled me more than the night air. "What are you saying?" I whispered. "The curse they speak of it isn't mine alone. It's in your family too. That's why they forbade us. Not because I was dangerous to you, but because together we're stronger than they can control." I staggered back, my heart slamming against my ribs. My whole life I had believed the elders' warnings, believed my parents' fear, and now Cale was telling me it was all a lie. "They've betrayed you, Mariel," Cale said, stepping closer. "They want you bound to Elias because it keeps you weak. But the bond between us, it terrifies them, because together we could break every chain they've built." The world tilted beneath me. My family, my mother's gentle words, my father's stern commands suddenly felt like a cage. And Elias, kind, steady Elias, was just another lock on the door. Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't look away from Cale. "If what you say is true, then why come now? Why wait until the night before my wedding?" His jaw tightened. "Because if you speak those vows tomorrow, the bond between us will wither. Not break. Never break. But it will fade into silence, and you'll live the rest of your life half alive. I couldn't let that happen. Not when I swore I'd come back for you." His words struck like lightning, setting fire to everything I thought I knew. I wanted to run. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to scream Dot instead. I whispered, "You should have left me to forget." Kale's eyes blazed, his wolf rising just beneath the surface. I tried, and I failed. Because forgetting you is impossible. The clearing went silent, save for the pounding of my heart. Then, from the shadows, a new sound broke through the snap of branches. The crunch of boots against leaves. Kale's head whipped around, his body tense, protective. I froze, panic flooding me. No one was supposed to know I was here. The scent hit me next. Familiar. Sharp. Elias. My blood turned cold. Through the trees, my groom stepped into the clearing. His face pale, his eyes full of shock and something darker. "Marielle," he breathed, his voice tight with hurt and rage. "What have you done?" The forest seemed to close around us, the air heavy with betrayal and destiny colliding in one unbearable moment. I stood between them, the man chosen for me and the mate fate had given me, and I knew, with every fiber of my being, that whatever choice I made next would change everything. The clearing fell silent, heavy with the weight of betrayal. Elias's eyes darted from me to Kale, his jaw tight, his hands balled into fists. His usually calm, steady face was twisted with something I had never seen before, Gar sharp enough to wound. "Marielle," he said again, his voice cracking. "Why are you here?" "With him." The bond in my chest burned. Words tangled in my throat. I wanted to explain, to deny, to hide, but Kale stepped forward before I could speak. "Because she's mine," Kale growled, his voice low and primal. "She always has been." The air itself seemed to tremble. Elias's face paled, then flushed red. His lips curled in a bitter sneer. "So it's true. The whispers, the bond. I told them it was dangerous letting him live. And still they said nothing." My breath caught. "You knew?" His gaze snapped to mine, filled with fury and desperation. "Of course I knew. Do you think the elders would ever risk this marriage without knowing the truth? They told me it was the only way to break you free of them, to keep you loyal to your family, to your pack." The ground swayed beneath me. My parents, the elders, Elias, they had all known. They had all lied. Kale's chest rose and fell, his wolf so close to the surface I could feel the heat radiating off him. "They couldn't break the bond," he snarled. "And you," his golden eyes locked on Elias. "You were their pawn. Nothing more." Elias's fists clenched. "No, I was the one who was supposed to save her from you." The tension snapped like lightning. Elias surged forward, not as a man, but as something else's body rippling. Bones shifting, fur tearing through skin. In a blink, he was no longer my groom. He was a wolf, dark as midnight, eyes burning with betrayal. My heart stopped. I had never seen Elias shift before. He had always kept that side hidden, always presenting himself as gentle, restrained. But now his wolf stood before us, massive and snarling, and he was not gentle at all. Kale moved instantly, its body dropping low, his own wolf fighting to break free. For a heartbeat, the clearing held only silence and the electric charge of two predators about to collide. "Stop!" I cried, stepping between them, though fear clawed at my throat. "This isn't the way," but Elias's snarl drowned me out. He lunged. Kale shifted mid-motion, his body exploding into fur and muscle, golden eyes gleaming brighter than the moon. Their clash shook the ground, claws raking, teeth snapping. The sound of fury and heartbreak tearing through the night. I stumbled back, my hands over my mouth, watching the two men I was bound to, one by choice, the other by destiny, tear into each other like enemies sworn by blood. Branches cracked, the forest itself recoiling from their violence, and then, in the chaos, the truth revealed itself as Elias lunged. Kale's jaws locked around his shoulder, forcing him to the ground. Elias snarled, twisting, snapping, trying to break free. But then something strange happened. His body jerked, his fur shuddered, and a sickly black smoke seeped from his wounds. I froze. That wasn't blood. That wasn't natural. Kale released him, stepping back in shock, Swolf growling low. The smoke coiled around Elias like a living thing, sinking into the ground, poisoning the air. His wolf staggered, his eyes flickering wildly between blue and an unnatural, blazing red. "What is this?" I whispered, terror clawing at me. Kale shifted back, his chest heaving, his skin slick with sweat. His golden eyes burned into mine. "This is what I came to warn you about. This is the curse, Marielle. It isn't mine, it's theirs." The world tilted. My family's warnings. The elder's silence. Elias's strange restraint all these years. It all made sense now. The curse didn't belong to Kale. It lived inside Elias. Elias collapsed to his knees, half shifted, his face twisted in agony. "Don't listen." To him, he gasped, his voice broken. "They told me I could contain it. That if you bound yourself to me, it would fade." That's why IE's words broke into a cough, black smoke spilling from his lips. My hands shook as I stared at him. My groom, the man I thought I knew, was unraveling before my eyes. And Kale. Kale had been telling the truth. I took a step toward Elias, torn between pity and horror. But Kale's hands shot out, gripping my arm, his voice fierce. "No, he's too far gone. If you stay with him, he'll drag you into the darkness. I won't let that happen." Elias's head snapped up, his eyes blazing red, his voice guttural. "She's mine." The forest shuddered with the force of his cry. I stood frozen, the world spinning, my future fracturing into pieces at my feet. The man I was supposed to marry was cursed, poisoned by something I didn't understand. The man I was forbidden to love was the only one who could save me. And as Elias rose to his feet, the black smoke twisting around him like a crown of shadows, I knew the turning point had come. There was no more pretending, no more safe path, no more lies. When the curse fully claimed him, he wouldn't just be my groom. He would be my greatest danger, and I had to choose whether to run or to fight. The forest seemed to close in around us, shadows thickening, branches trembling as though the trees themselves feared what Elias had become. Black smoke poured from his body, twisting into the night like serpents, choking the air with bitterness and rot. His once kind eyes were gone, replaced with a furious red glow that burned into me. "You will not leave me." "Marielle," Elias growled, his voice layered with something inhuman. "I gave up everything for you. I carried this curse alone so you would be free." My heart splintered. His words rang with pain and devotion. But they were tangled in darkness. Kale stepped in front of me, his golden eyes sharp as blades. "She doesn't belong to your curse. She belongs to herself." The two men stood like night and dawn, one cloaked in smoke, the other in light. And I, caught in between, was being pulled in both directions. My chest burning with the impossible weight of love, fear, and truth. Elias took a step forward, the ground withering beneath his feet. "If she binds to me at dawn, the curse will be sealed. I'll be whole, and she'll be safe." "That's what they told me." Kale's voice cut like thunder. "They lied to you. You think giving her your chains will save her? It will only destroy her." Elias's body shook, torn between man and beast, his voice cracking with desperation. "I can't lose her. I won't." And then he lunged at Kale, met him head-on, their clash echoing like storm and fire. Fur and claws blurred in the moonlight as their wolves tore across the clearing, each blow a battle of love and rage. The ground shook, trees splintered, and the night howled with the sound of destiny colliding. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't look away. This was the truth laid bare. Two men bound to me, fighting not just for me but for their own souls. And then Neelis's wolf pinned Kale, his jaws at his throat. "No," I cried, rushing forward. The bond inside me flared, a searing heat tearing through my chest. For a moment I thought I would collapse, but instead, something else happened. The air shimmered around me, silver light pulsing from beneath my skin, answering the bond's call. Kale's eyes widened from beneath Elias's weight. Mariel, you're awakening. I didn't know what he meant, but I felt if the bond wasn't just between us. It was inside me, alive. Elias, stop. I shouted, my voice ringing with more power than my own. This isn't you. This curse is twisting. You don't let it win. For the briefest second, Elias hesitated. His glowing red eyes flickered back to blue, his wolf trembling. A broken whimper escaping his throat. I saw the man I had grown up with. The boy who had brought me flowers, who had sworn to protect me. Who had smiled like I was his entire world. Tears blurred my vision. I don't want to lose you. But the smoke surged again, clawing at his body, dragging him deeper into shadow. His face twisted in agony as he snarled. Then choose me. Save me. The bond inside me seared with fire, pulling toward Kale. Even as my heart ached for Elias, I was being torn apart between love and duty. Between light and shadow, Kale staggered to his feet, blood on his lip, his voice raw. Mariel, listen to me. If you bind to him, you'll bind to the curse. You'll be trapped. It'll consume you both. Elias roared, his wolf's voice shattering the clearing. Better cursed together than lost apart. The black smoke erupted from his chest, whipping through the trees, curling toward me like claws. I stumbled back, the shadows reaching for me. And in that moment I understood. I could not save them both. Elias, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. I love the boy you were, but I can't chain myself to the monster the curse is making you. His scream split the night. The smoke convulsed around him, swallowing him whole until his form became more shadow than flesh. Kale lunged forward, pulling me into his arms, his golden light flaring as if to shield me. The smoke recoiled, hissing, shrieking, as if burned by the bond that tied us together. The forest trembled. Elias's form writhed within the smoke, his voice twisting with pain and fury. You will regret this, Mariel. If I cannot have you, then neither can he. The shadows exploded outward, a wave of darkness crashing through the trees. I clung to Kale as the world shook, my ears ringing, my heart breaking, and when the smoke finally cleared, Elias was gone. Silence fell. The forest lay broken. Branches snapped, the earth scorched where the shadows had touched. Kale held me tightly, his breath ragged, his body trembling not from fear, but from the weight of what had just happened. I buried my face against his chest, my sobs shaking me. I didn't want to lose him. Kale's arms tightened around me. You didn't lose him. The curse did. And now we'll have to face what comes next. The bond pulsed between us, alive, undeniable. But all I could think about was Elias's last scream. Echoing in the night. He wasn't gone forever. He would come back, and when he did, the final choice would be mine. The silence after the storm was deafening. The trees stood broken, the earth torn open where shadow and light had collided. Yet the moon above looked unchanged as if it hadn't just witnessed the end of my world. Kale still held me, his chest heaving, his golden eyes dim with exhaustion. His warmth grounded me, but my body felt hollow. As though Elias's scream had ripped something out of me I would never get back. I pulled away slowly, trembling. He's gone! Kale's jaw tightened, his gaze scanning the ravaged clearing. Not gone. The curse still binds him. Somewhere out there, he's alive. But not as the Elias you knew. The words cut deep, but I already knew they were true. I could still feel it, the echo of Elias in my chest, faint and distorted, like a memory pressed too hard into the skin. We walked back to the village at dawn. The wedding I had once dreaded was supposed to happen that morning. Bells ringing, flowers scattered down the aisle, guests whispering about my gown. Instead, the air smelled of smoke. The streets hushed with unease. The people stared as Kale and I returned, my dress torn, his body bruised. They didn't ask questions, but I could see the truth in their eyes. They knew something had shifted. The safe illusions we all clung to had shattered inside my family's home. I sat before the mirror. My reflection startled me. My eyes, once ordinary now, carried a shimmer, faint silver threads swirling like captured moonlight. I touched the glass. What am I becoming? Cale leaned against the doorway, his presence steady as the rising sun. Not becoming, awakening. The bond between us revealed what's been buried in your bloodline all along. You're more than human, Marielle. You're meant to stand in both worlds. The words should have terrified me. Instead, they filled me with a strange calm. Perhaps I had always known I didn't quite belong. Perhaps fate had been whispering this truth my whole life, waiting for the right moment to break free. Later, when the village gathered to mourn what they thought was only a forest fire, Cale and I stood at the edge of the woods. His voice was low, almost reverent. You chose to break the curse's hold tonight, but Elias is still bound to it, which means he'll return. A chill rippled through me, and when he does, Cale's hand brushed mine, careful, steady, as though he knew how fragile I felt. We'll be ready, together. I wanted to believe him. The bond pulsed warm between us, a tether of light I couldn't deny. Yet, in the quiet corners of my heart, Elias's shadow lingered. He hadn't been a stranger. He had been my childhood, my comfort, my first promise of love. And now he was a ghost I could neither keep nor let go. That night, I walked into the forest alone. The moonlight poured over the ruins of the clearing, silver on ash. I knelt where Elias had vanished into smoke, pressing my palm to the earth. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I couldn't follow you into the darkness, but I will never stop hoping you find your way back." The wind stirred, carrying the faintest echo, whether a memory or a promise, I couldn't tell. But it was enough. When I rose, Cale was waiting for me at the edge of the trees. He didn't speak, only opened his hand. And I, with all my fear, my grief, my hope, placed mine in his. Weeks passed and the world began to settle. The villagers whispered about the girl with the silver eyes, the stranger with the wolf's gaze who never left her side. Some feared us. Others called it destiny. I learned to live with the weight of both. Cale taught me to listen to the bond, to trust its rhythm. I discovered strength I hadn't known, my senses sharper, my heart fiercer, my voice carrying a resonance that made the world lean closer when I spoke. But no matter how much I grew, a part of me remained haunted. At times in dreams, I saw Elias standing at the edge of shadow, his hand outstretched, his eyes torn between red and blue. He never spoke. He only watched, and I always woke with tears on my cheeks. Still, life moved forward. One evening, Cale and I stood on the hill overlooking the village, the sun setting in shades of fire. He slipped his arm around me, his voice steady. "You made the hardest choice anyone could make," he said softly, "and you chose light. That choice saved not only you beat me too." I leaned into him, the bond humming warm between us. It didn't feel like strength. It felt like breaking. "Sometimes," he murmured, "that's what strength is." The horizon glowed with the promise of night, the moon waiting to rise. I knew shadows still lurked beyond the trees, that Elias's curse was far from over. But I also knew this. I wasn't the same girl who had stood trembling in her wedding gown, waiting for a life that wasn't hers. I was something more, and whatever darkness came, I would face it with love, with loss, with fire in my blood and the bond in my heart. For fate had stolen my wedding, but destiny had given me wings, and this time I was ready to fly.